Dialectical behavior therapy was created in the 1980s by Marsha Linehan in Seattle, Washington.
Today, DBT is taught all over the world.
We're two therapists who believe everyone can benefit from DBT skills.
I'm Kate.
I'm Michelle.
And this is DBT and Me.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. It's been a while.
We are back.
Well, I guess I was more recent because I did that little one with Meg, but it's been forever for you.
It has been forever. Life is different in a million ways. It's so hard to think back to how life was the last time I sat in front of a microphone and recorded a podcast episode. It's been a long time with a lot of things going on.
Very full time, right? Time that feels longer because it's so full.
It is so full. It is so busy, but it's amazing. It's amazing too. It's been awesome. And we are going to, in a moment, be sharing with you guys, just catching you up on how we've been since it's been a little while since we recorded. So we're going to make sure to do that. But we wanted to start by talking about the topic for today. So Kate had this idea, and I loved it.
Yay!
And we go back and forth, it just kind of depends on what comes to each of us. Sometimes she has ideas, sometimes I have ideas, but this one I definitely want to give credit where credit is due, because this was fully Kate, where I went to her and I was like, do you have any ideas of what to record when we come back? And she's like, actually, I really do. Like, let's do this. And I thought it was great. So the topic for today, we're going to be talking all about joy. And Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like when you shared this topic idea with me that what really inspired it for you was recognizing that a lot of times when we're talking about DBT and when to use DBT and stuff like that, we're talking about uncomfortable emotions. Mm-hmm. We're talking about using DBT when we're feeling anger, fear, or sadness, or, emotions in those realms. And we don't often talk about the importance of using skills for the comfortable, pleasant, enjoyable emotions, right? Like when we're feeling joy, I think so often there can be this tendency to just, I don't know, like we feel it, but also we're like, oh, so because right now I feel good, I don't need skills. Mm-hmm. I only need to whip out my DBT skills when I'm struggling. But in happy times, I don't need DBT, and we're here to prove you otherwise today.
And also, I think, have you heard this from clients? I feel like I've heard this both from individual clients and from people in groups in the past of just realizing that they have a struggle remaining in joy, right? That they like future tripping, past tripping, anxiety, like whatever, that they have experiences where they're easily robbed of their joyful moments. And so I think that was the other half of the inspiration for this, was people being like, but how do I stay happy? Like, well, obviously you can't forever because that ain't humanly possible, but basically how do I not ruin it for myself, I think is really more the point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. How can I enjoy this joyful moment rather than being like, okay, I'm feeling joy. When is the other shoe going to drop?
Exactly.
That kind of an idea.
Yep.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And before I dive in any further, I'm going to skip to getting in self-promotion to make sure that I don't accidentally overlook that, since it's been a while since I've done this. So a couple things to just remind you guys of things that we have out in the world for you to enjoy, resources we have for you, things that we're proud of, awesome things that we're doing. First and foremost is our book, right? So if you have not yet ordered DBT for Everyone, go check it out. Just type it into Amazon and you will find it. DBT for Everyone in all kinds of formats. Audiobook, ebook, paperback book, whatever floats your boat, you can find our book on Amazon. So go ahead and get your copy if you haven't already. Also, you can support us on Patreon, and the link to Patreon's in the show notes. But again, patreon.com/DBT and Me. You can also check out our Etsy shop if you haven't already. We've been having products posted regularly in the Facebook group every week, thanks to our assistant, Meg. So there are, products that she's making sure to shout out each week. But if you're curious what we have in there, you can go to etsy.com/shop/DBT and Me. Give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts if that's where you hang out and listen to us. And send us emails if you have any questions or concerns about anything. dbtandmepodcast@gmail.com. And then last but not least, if you haven't started listening to our other podcast, you can by going to The Couch and the Chair, just searching for that wherever you're currently listening to us. And we haven't gotten back to recording new episodes of that yet, but we will soon. Hopefully there will be a new episode out in August.
Yes, that sounds good.
Hopefully something like that. Once Kay and I decide on a topic for that podcast, we don't know what we're going to record on next.
I haven't even thought about it yet.
No, I have not thought about it either, but we'll come up with something for when we record our new episode for The Couch and the Chair with me coming back from maternity leave. All right, so Kate, you want to tell everybody how these last few months have been for you? Just catching everyone up on your world ever since we stopped recording, since we haven't sat down and recorded something in a while.
Minute.
No monthly episodes, yeah.
That's true. Yes, I want to. Also, I don't know. Sorry, guys. It has not been a joyful summer on whole for me. Let's see. Some good stuff first, though, because that's always nice. The clinic continues to grow, which is very exciting. I have, I think since I talked to you guys last, I have a new prescriber on staff and a new intern who's started and a new clinician who we hired in the state of Hawaii, which is kind of exciting and terrifyingly horrible on the bureaucratic side. I'm sorry to my chief admin for everything that did. So yeah, the clinic is growing. The DBT group is going well. I'm actually leading the mindfulness module for the very first time in my life right now this month, which is pretty exciting. I was like, ooh, new DB. I mean, not new stuff, not actually new stuff, but I haven't taught it to a group, so that's novel. That's exciting. Yeah, I guess overarchingly, you could just say that my professional world is going nicely. So that's a plus. Hop, skip, and a jump over to the personal side of things, and things have been rougher there. On the more mild end of inconveniences, my physical body has been a rough place to be. A lot of this summer. Currently, hilariously, guys, my back, is spasming. My lower back is just having a moment this whole day. So I guess maybe it's having a day, not a moment. And that is one of the things that goes wrong with it, is that my back goes out. That's happened a couple times. That happened, egads, when I was over at Michelle's that one or 2 days where it was really awful when I was staying at Michelle's for a couple of weeks. Whew, I was so worried about how that was going to impact things. Thought it might send me home. Oh, hey, actually, staying at Michelle's was one of the good things from my summer.
Yeah, we had 2 straight weeks together.
I know! I got to spend so much time with the kiddos. Made me very happy. So that's definitely on the plus side of things for the summer, too. But yeah, I have been sick several times. If you hear me coughing this episode because we couldn't edit it out at one point or another, I apologize. I've had a nasty upper respiratory infection for almost 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks now. I had another one of those anyway, I've been sick and ouchy like a lot this summer, which has been rough. My mom, I know you guys have heard plenty about my mother over the years. I don't actually know how much I've talked about her current situation on this podcast. I think I've talked about it more on the couch and the chair because we tend to go into more personal stuff over yonder. My mom is sliding into a pain-filled and ignominious demise. She has dementia of various and sundry sorts. It's not like one type of thing causing it. She's got a lot of different health problems that are contributing. The downside of that is that it isn't taking her brain in a predictable progression, either the speed of it or what is getting stolen in what order or when. But she is not really okay, and she also fights my sister and I tooth and fucking nail about trying to do anything to help her because she feels insulted by us saying she needs the help. So that is a wild grief. I just want to put out there that, guys, I'm used to being like I don't know, I like to think of myself as being pretty high up close to the epitome of authenticity, and I'm also aware that I'm totally numbing out today. I'm having a hard time being present to the feelings that are associated with the stuff I'm talking about here. So that's the thing. I just wanted to admit it because I know that I'm talking about some of this with an inappropriate tone of voice, even for me. But that's because it's really, really fucking hard. And I don't, frankly, all the time know how to process that one. No one prepared me for having a mother with dementia and health issues who shouldn't be living alone and can't take care of herself and won't let us take care of her either. So that's shitty, and I just feel sorry for everybody who's going through that who might be listening to this, because one of the things that's also true for me out there is I feel very alone in it. I don't know much of anybody else going through this right now, and it fucking sucks. So that has me in tears a lot. That's scary and confusing and heartbreaking and blah. About 70 different kinds of shitty. And on the more recent end of things, by which I mean less than a week, just this last Thursday, I learned that I lost my very first friend in life to death. Sorry, that sounds weird. She's not my very first friend I've ever had in life. She's the first friend that I've lost by way of death, not by way of ghosting or people just fading away, etc. She's a wonderful, amazing human being, my friend Rachel. If you guys have or do get our book, you can see some of her handiwork because she took the picture of Michelle and I that is on the back cover of our book. So I love that. She is memorialized. She gets credit for the photo, and so she is a piece of us in our book forever. That makes me pretty happy. Oh, there we go. There's the crying. But her being gone makes me pretty sad, guys. I've known her almost half my life, and she lost a very short, unfortunately very short battle with bile duct cancer. So fuck cancer. And yeah, I'm here with you guys because this is a different kind of labor, but I took today off from work still. I was like, 3 days of bereavement for a friend seems reasonable. I'm like, oh my god, people only give you 3 days of bereavement leave and you lose like a spouse or a parent or some shit? Like, holy mother, no, that's inappropriately short, because this is going to be kicking my ass for a while. So that's, yeah, I feel it, but I mean, actually, forewarning, I feel kind of brainless today still with the whole grief thing. I have moved through a lot of different stuff with my friend dying. I think on Friday I managed to cry more in a day than I maybe ever have in the entirety of my life. My eyes hurt horrifyingly by the end of the day. I cried for like 7 or 8 hours almost straight. It was awful. But, I mean, I guess those of you in the Facebook group also heard me talk about that. I am trying to do, obviously certain skills and stuff, and it's also one of the reasons this summer being stupid hard, is one of the reasons also that I'm inspired to this episode. Because the worse life is, the harder shit gets, the more important it becomes to be able to sink into and stay present with and fully get enjoyment of joyful moments and experiences, the fewer and farther between and shorter lasting that they are. So, hug your people, and I think that's it. I feel like there was something that I thought of while I was talking about the clinic and stuff, and I forgot what it was. Something else good. Oh, husband got a new job that comes with a pay raise. That's always nice. Huzzah raises. Oh, I have a fan going, if you guys can hear that. And I'm a little bit brainless with grief, so if I more than usual or sound in any other way a little bit like an idiot, that's why. And yeah, if you haven't yet, go check out the post in the Facebook group. I shared a bunch more pictures that she's taken of me in my life. And she was really talented, and it was really lovely. So, yeah, that's my summer.
Mm-hmm.
How's your summer been, Michelle?
Oh boy. If I had to sum it up in a word, my summer's been busy so far. But just to catch you all up to speed with where we last left off with recording a monthly episode, our last monthly episode was the one where we had Whitney on as a special guest to talk about perinatal mental health. And at that time, I was abundantly pregnant. I can't remember exactly when we recorded that episode or all of that, but just to summarize briefly, I was scheduled to have a C-section on April 17th, and my daughter had other plans, and she made her arrival into the world on April 13th at 5:30 a.m. After my water broke on its own at 1:30 a.m. So 4 hours later, she was in our arms, which is pretty crazy. And I guess I'll share kind of similarly to your format, Kate. I'll share some things that have been really, positive, uplifting, and then maybe some things that have been more challenging or hard. On the positive end, it has been a really wonderful time of maternity leave during these brighter months of the year. My son was born early November, so my maternity leave the last time was November, December, January, cold, dark. I barely left the house for a few months. And now with being a mom of 2 and just wanting to, keep doing things with my son, who's, 2.5 and rambunctious and all of that and has a lot of energy, and to just have that coincide with these kind of warmer, nicer days has been really nice. And so we mentioned this in the podcast episode, I think, with Whitney, how in Washington State anyways, partners are also given 12 weeks of paid time off after a child is born. So up until the day that we're recording this episode, this is my husband's first day back at work when we're recording this, but, we've been together for 12 weeks, which, I mean, as you can imagine, whenever you're around anybody for 12 weeks straight, more or less, with no breaks, sure, you butt heads and things of that nature. That's certainly happened as we've adjusted to being parents of two. And also, we had the opportunity to make a lot of really great family memories in these last 12 weeks. We got, my son in swim lessons again. We went to the zoo. We went to the children's museum. We played in the backyard pretty often. We just had like some amazing family times that have been really, really great. And in general, I've been pleasantly surprised at how adjusting to two kids has gone. I mean, it's not, again, without difficulties because you're caring for two beings instead of just one, and it's back to breastfeeding and it's back to night wakings and it's back to like all that stuff. But like, man, just the minute that she was born, just all my worries just went away that I was having about transitioning to being a mom of two. And it has, in some ways, really felt like riding a bike. Oddly, I was worried. I was like, I'm going to forget all this stuff. And no, I haven't. I haven't forgotten. I remember how I did things with my son. I can do it again. And she's wonderful. My daughter is amazing. She's already cooing and rolling over from her tummy to her back. And she's growing well, and she's going to take over the world, I think. And
I'm pretty sure she is.
Yeah. Like she has like, yeah, just her smile lights up everything. I mean, so I love being a mom of two. I really do. I love it. And it's incredible to feel like that same degree of love, but for two totally different kids. Like I can already tell they're so different, but I love so many things about each of them. It's just, it's awesome. There's nothing else like it. So that's all been really, really positive. On the challenging end of things, was kind of, I had a C-section with my daughter the same way I did with my son. That was planned. I knew I was going to have a C-section this time. But, my body recovering from this C-section, in some ways, it was tougher than my first C-section. So my first 6 weeks postpartum, I could not lift my son. So I really did not do much care for him at all. That's why Kate came to stay with us for 2 weeks, because I was like, I need a stand-in. Like I need, somebody to help with the things that I can't do. My C-section experience was not as positive. I had not major complications, but some minor complications postpartum, and that was difficult. And so, it's just been this thing of like readjusting to like, what my body can do. And so that was really tough early on. And it is tough, right? This is the challenge, I think, of being a mom of two, is that my kids both need me at all times. And it's tough with nursing because so often I'm having to step away from something I'm doing with my son to go be with my daughter. And, it's just, I'm constantly being pulled in a million directions, right? There's always something that's not getting done, something that's not being attended to. It feels like there's just, there's way more on my plate. So even though I wouldn't change it for anything, yeah, that's been tough, definitely, at points during the last 12 weeks. Kate, you checked in about how you were doing professionally. The thing that I'll say about myself professionally, so this episode will be released for all of you July 31st. I'm going back to work the week of August 12th, and I have openings for new clients. So I can only take on people who live in Washington State. Sorry, everybody else. But if you happen to be living in Washington and you are wanting to get into therapy, if you are currently not in therapy, and specifically the people who I really do a lot of work with are women who are struggling with relationship issues. So if that is specifically you, Yeah, I would love to work with you. Or if you're just somebody where you're like, hey, Michelle, I'm wanting to talk about DBT stuff and I need guidance with DBT. Oh, yeah, happy to do that work, of course. Otherwise, I won't be here recording DBT podcast month after month for you all if I didn't want to do DBT work with clients too. So reach out to me. I'll put my website down in the show notes, but it's nextchapter-counseling.com. So if you want to work with me, I have space in my schedule and I'm taking on new people in August. So reach out to me and we can get some things set up. So yeah, that's what I've got to summarize how I've been. So let's talk about joy.
Let's talk about joy. Yeah. So actually, I'm going to mention a little bit of something that leads or references what I'm about to do a little bit later too. But we've been talking about joy and that this is an episode about joy, and it is. But just like we do with all the rest of the emotions, I think it's important to remember that joy is but one word, and there are many words. There are many types of feeling that are within the pie wedge of joy with the for those of you who know the emotions, the feeling wheel, right? You guys know the feeling wheel? Anyway, so these are all of the words that Michelle and I found on the feelings wheel for the happiness or the joy pie wedge, and just a reminder that there's a lot of different emotions, right, that count in the family of joy, and so to keep your eye out for more than just I am filled with joy in this moment, for things that you might want to pay attention to. So before I go into any of the skills, I just want to read out really quickly the different words that we found. Obviously, there's going to be more than these. This is one feelings wheel list of words, right? So you could take a trip down Thesaurus Lane and find even more. But here are the ones we have today. Happy, interested, proud, accepted, powerful, peaceful, intimate, optimistic, inspired, open, playful, sensitive, hopeful, loving, provocative, courageous, fulfilled, respected, confident, important, inquisitive, amused, ecstatic, and liberated. I really like a lot of those words.
There are definitely some good ones in there.
There's good words in there. There's good feelings in there, right? Like, oh, that's just like, oh yeah, I do like those. Those are definitely the more pleasure center oriented emotions. So I am going to start this whole thing skill wise talking about being mindful. So how do we utilize mindfulness around joyful experiences when they are happening, and why is that useful? Why do you want to do it, and how are some ways that you might practice it? So the reason why is pretty straight. Well, not the, and almost any time I say the, I'm probably wrong, right? Dialectics, folks, so many different things going into a thing. One of the main reasons to practice mindfulness around joy and joyful emotions is because mindfulness is inherently something about being in the here and now, right? Like you are present to what is present, right, in this moment. And so that is one thing that help you stay grounded in joy, is just any form of mindfulness, right? Any form of mindfulness is about paying attention to the present moment, right? It's the beginning of the definition, paying attention to the present moment. And so, since it's so often the case that the future especially is the thing that is stealing the joy of the now, mindfulness of just about any ilk helps to keep you in the now, and thusly helps to keep you in and present to the joy for longer. So I do just want to sort of open it up and say, sort of like mindfulness is the anytime, anywhere, anything kind of skill. Any kind of mindfulness that you want to apply in a moment of pleasure or joy is going to be a positive thing to be doing. Ouch! Sorry, my back. Ouch! Is going to be a positive thing to be doing to help enhance that joyful experience. It doesn't just help enhance the joyful experience of the moment either. One of the other nifty things about choosing to be mindful and mindfully, say, noticing details in the moment that you're having joy is that it helps you hold onto and reference joy outside of that moment, which both allows it to last longer and be more accessible. Right? So this is about paying attention to, for instance, what temperature it is, what your surroundings look like, what thoughts are going through your mind. Like, as many different details as you can add in is going to help enrich your memories of that moment. And because you're being mindful, right, the way that you're laying them down in your mind, this is going to help them be more accessible to you in the future. Hilariously, I don't know if anybody out there, I mean, statistically, somebody listening to this has aphantasia. We're a wee bitty bit of the population, but 2% is enough. Somebody listening to this has it. So, I don't know if any of you guys who are listening who have aphantasia have discovered this, but as a sort of corollary to this, I find that I can remember a lot more sensory data about a memory if I mindfully narrate the sensory data to myself in the moment. It like puts it in the memory in a way it can't be, since I don't actually have the sensory data, right? So it's not like, oh, I say, remember the golden sunlight streaming through the clouds right now, and then when I have the memory, I see it. I don't see it, still can't see it, no amount of seeing. But before I started intentionally and deliberately narrating moments to myself, my memories were somewhere between sparse and entirely absent of sensory data. I couldn't tell you what the weather was. I couldn't tell you where we were, or what anybody was wearing, or what the sounds were in the air. Like, I could give you nothing except for what was said and done, right? No sensory data whatsoever. So, this is awesome for those of you who are not aphantasic as well, but just for those of my aphantasic buddies out there, this is maybe especially useful for you when it comes to being able to access more well-rounded memories down the line of pleasant and positive events. So that's like trying to be mindful of details in the moment, mostly outside of yourself, but also inside of yourself. That said, being mindful of your body in particular really helps you to tune in more to the presence of joy, right? They're called feelings in part because you feel them, right? In your meat suit, somewhere you have a thing that is alerting you to that joy. So the more mindful that you are of your body, both during joyful moments and kind of when you're trying to get into a joyful space, it helps you have a lower threshold for noticing happiness and joy and those other feelings if you're being mindful of your emotions in the moment, and helps you be able to, I keep saying tune in. Stop using the same words. Keep you grounded in it, I guess, is what I mean. Right? If you're able to be in your body, you're able to be in the feeling, literally, a little bit better than if you're not being mindful. Also, one thing that I don't think would necessarily occur to most folks is mindfulness of others as a way to enhance the joy that you are feeling, right? We can definitely, I don't want to put it, potentiate. That's a weird drug term to use for feelings, Kate. We can, other people's joy is additive, right, to our own, especially if they are people that we happen to enjoy personally, if they're people we know, but it doesn't even have to be people we know. Just noticing the joy around us at a concert or a park or other places like that adds to and enriches, deepens. I keep using the same words, and I know none of them are the one I want. There's something I'm reaching for, and I may never find it. Damn it. Anyway, it makes it better. There we go. When you can't find the fancy word you want, dumb it down. It just makes it better to be able to be present, not only to your joy, but to the joy of others, right? That makes sense. And then also, one thing that I just want to give as a suggestion, and this loops back into that whole list of different emotions that fall under the joy heading, is to try to use mindfulness of emotions to intentionally catalog the different flavors of joy that you maybe feel in the day. I think it's not uncommon to think of feelings as kind of only being those things that are uncomfortable. Like, you don't necessarily say you're feeling anything unless you're feeling something negative. I'm not like people literally don't think happiness is an emotion. But if I'm like, oh, how are you feeling? Sometimes people are like, oh, I'm not really feeling anything, if it's something more on the neutral or positive end of things. So, and also, I know that oftentimes people seem to miss the nuance within the more pleasant emotions that we have. They see all of the nitty-gritty different ways that they can feel pain and anger and disappointment and all those other things. They can give you a bunch of different flavors of those feelings, but you're happy or you're not happy, right? Like, that just doesn't, people don't tend to notice that there's just as many permutations of joy as there are of any other emotion. So trying to use mindfulness of emotion to deliberately look for all of these different, more nuanced flavors of joy, again, helps you be more present to it, helps you notice that you're experiencing it more, and helps you key into how much more often it's in your life than you might be thinking. So those are my first thoughts. Did I miss anything that you, ouch, can think of immediately, Michelle? I'm so sorry, guys, for little exclamations of pain. Stupid back.
No, I think you hit on a lot of really great points of just how to really deepen the experiences of joy.
Yeah.
When you're in them, how to make them more vibrant, something you can
vibrant.
hold on to.
I like that word.
To.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad that's a word that resonates with you as you were looking
Flailing.
to find just the right words. I know, I hate that feeling when it's like, oh, there's a word for this and I can't find it. But no, you did a great job giving some good suggestions there of how to use mindfulness with moments of joy. So switching gears a little bit, we're going to be spending the rest of the episode talking about some DBT skills that we would recommend using when you are wanting to experience joy. So really, by and large, as Kate was just talking about, when you are in a joyful moment, mindfulness, 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 mindfulness. Right? Just be as mindful as you can of what you're experiencing when you are having feelings of joy. We also know, though, that there may be many of you listening that are just like, okay, that's great. My moments of joy are few and far between, and I want to increase the frequency of how often I'm feeling joy in my life. So how can I basically find more joy? So we have 3 skills that we think can help you do that. I realized as we started talking about this... Are you
realizing the literal same thing I am right now? Oh God, please let this be a same brain moment. What were you going to say?
I wish we could... We should just say it at the same time. No, we shouldn't. Because what if we're wrong? We left off the A from ABC.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say, same brain. Yes, that's literally what I was thinking about. I was like, how did we leave out accumulate? How did we leave that one out of all skills in the whole fucking list?
I was thinking about it as you were talking about the mindfulness stuff. I was like, okay, and then I'm going to be talking about willingness next, you guys. But I was like, oh yeah, the A.
The A! Like the actually most obvious skill after mindfulness. Oh Lord.
So, that's worth saying.
Yes.
The A in ABC was designed to help you have joyful experiences in your life. That's the whole point of it. So, if you want to know more about that, and you don't already, go find our ABC episode where we talk about it. So that aside, we came up with 3 other skills that we think can be helpful with finding joy and bringing more of it into your life. And there may be other DBT skills too that we overlooked.
Stumble upon.
These 3 felt like big ones to keep in mind. And I would maybe argue that of these 3 that we're about to talk about, at least for me, I think the one I'm about to talk about right now of willingness, I believe is key.
Nice. All right. I'm ready to be sold.
I think this one is big, when it comes to finding joy. So, brief recap of the concept of willingness, right? When we are going through life, things do not always go the way that we want them to go. That's just the truth.
True.
Sometimes things go very much in the direction we hope they will. Other times, things go wildly in ways that we're like, oh my gosh, I wish that wasn't happening. And when we have those moments of things not going according to our plans and things happening that we don't like and that we find stressful, we can either adopt an attitude of willfulness or we can adopt an attitude of willingness. So this is a choice we have available to us every single moment of every single day. If I really had to boil it down and simplify it, it is kind of making the decision of, do I view this glass as half empty or half full? If you're in willfulness, you're viewing it as half empty. If you're in willingness, you're viewing it as half full. So willingness and taking that stance as you approach stressful situations in life, I view it as it opens the door for joy to enter. Choosing willingness is not in and of itself, I think, necessarily going to bring you to a state of joy. It's not a light switch. Willingness is actually really hard. It's hard to find it. It's hard to keep it. and hold on to it when you are going through things that are hard. But, like, here's a really, really basic example of willingness. I think we even maybe mentioned this one in the book. Oh. Maybe that's why I'm thinking of it. Okay. We talk about driving and traffic.
Oh, yes, we do. All the time.
All the time. I don't know why it's such a go-to example, because it's pretty universal. But you're driving somewhere and you hit traffic. Now what? Right? A willful approach is going to be like, well, shoot, now I'm going to be late. Look at these drivers who can't merge. There shouldn't be traffic this time of day. Why is there so much traffic when there normally isn't?
Me right? On 405 trying to get to your house is really what you're describing in this moment.
Yeah, Kate had really bad traffic getting to my house when she came to stay with us for a couple weeks. But that's a willful approach. A willing approach is to say, okay, there's traffic. First, I have to use some, radical acceptance here, albeit this is radical acceptance for a pretty mild situation, but I need to accept that there's traffic. I don't need to necessarily know why there's traffic, but there is. So now, what is within my control to do about this traffic? There's a lot that is outside of my control, but how do I want to spend this time while I'm sitting in traffic? Do I want to look around and notice the scenery that's outside my window and appreciate it? Do I want to put on, a podcast or music that I like to listen to? Yep. Do I want to dance
put on DBT and Me? That's why you said podcast. I was like, do I want to listen to DBT and Me? Sorry, guys.
It can be us, you guys. Or whatever podcast you like. But how can I have this be that this doesn't just ruin my day, so to speak? I don't want sitting in traffic here to ruin my day. So what can I do that might bring me a little bit of joy? But you have to first be open to finding it, right? And willingness is that openness to say, well, let me think about what my options are here. Willfulness tells you that you have no control, you have no options. Willingness is all about trying to get creative with what you can do and be open-minded to the possibilities in front of you for how you could enjoy whatever moment you are in. So willingness, the biggest benefit that I see of willingness is that when we release control, right? When we release our idea of how we want things to be, like with the traffic example, it's like, hey, I thought I was leaving the house with enough time to get to where I wanted to be on time. Well, now I'm going to be late, right? So I've lost more or less control over getting there on time. It's out the window. I'm not going to get there on time. And what is that going to create for you, right? Potential feelings of anger, anxiety, things of that nature, that things are not working out how you hoped they would. But willingness can really start to shift your emotional landscape away from some of those emotions. And again, like I was mentioning, sort of open the door for joy to come in. So yeah, it's about trying to make the most of any experience that you have. And to be open to, you were really honing in on this with the mindfulness stuff, Kate, right? About the present moment. Present. Right now. Not what's going to happen in 5 minutes, not what's going to happen in 5 hours, not what's going to happen, tomorrow or down the line. 5 years, is that what we said? Yeah, I don't know why I chose the number 5 out of thin air. But it's, willingness is about, okay, how do I make the most of what is happening? So when you can get yourself into a willing headspace, that is you taking a gigantic step towards joy, in my opinion. So I think it's one of the best DBT skills we have to really shift us more into that state of mind where we are going to potentially experience any of those emotion words that you named a little bit ago in the episode. But that's what I have for willingness. Yeah, I'll turn it over to you for the next one, Kate.
Yeah, I would add one little thing I would add about the willingness thing would be, like, for me, willfulness often shows up like anticipatorily. Like,
oh, totally. I'm not going to like this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Like deciding this isn't going to be fun.
This is going to be terrible.
This is going to be terrible. I'm not going to like this. Right. And so I think the other way, I loved your You said adopting a willing attitude is like opening a door for joy to enter. Like, I really loved that way of conceptualizing it. And I think of that also like being super important for that anticipatory willfulness, right? Like, just fucking do the thing, eat the thing, show up to the thing, like whatever. Maybe it does suck, in which case I'm sorry, but maybe it doesn't. And it's super unlikely to not suck if you have doubled down on deciding it is going to suck before getting there. So that's all. Just a little bit like of like remembering that sometimes the willingness or willfulness isn't necessarily about the thing that's actually happening, but maybe about something about to happen.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. Yeah, because how often do we feel either willfulness. I was going to say either willful or willing. It'd be great if we felt willing more often, but about, things that haven't even happened, that are not the reality that we're currently in. We're not feeling it about reality. We're feeling it about an imagined reality.
I bet they're going to say or do this thing. I bet that the party's going to go that way, right? Like, we're basically pretending we're psychic and then having a reaction to our psychic prognostications. Right? And then just like digging in our heels, right, is what I think of. Like, well, I don't want to go to the party because it's going to suck. Really? How do you know? And how do you not know the lottery numbers? Right? Like, so that's just my little, I just always like to remember, because I do decently well at willing if I've gotten to the moment willing, like without deciding it's gonna suck, but my willfulness tends to show up way ahead of time. Just a reminder, those can be out of sync.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
But still the same idea of opening the door, right? Like going to the thing, trying the thing, whatever, like entering into the future willingly is the same idea of leaving the door open to a joyful experience. So no, I just really love that way of thinking about it. So the skill that I'm going to lean into, probably unsurprising to all and sundry, is the self-soothing with the 5 senses. And how do we utilize that to find more joy or bring more joy into our world? I feel a little bit silly, I think, with both of my skills. My first point is just like, this is just doing this, though, just to say. So, I don't know if reminders, right? But just if you think about it for a moment, self-soothing is, at its base, about bringing joy or pleasure into your body. Right? I mean, that's what it is, right? We're looking at our body and being like, hey, body, what do you like? How can I give it to you in a nice little compact dose so that I feel better? Right? Like, that's what we're already doing with self-soothing of the 5 senses in a way. That being said, I think that most of the time when we're thinking of flavors of a pleasant experience that we're trying to bring into our bodies and into those moments with self-soothing, I'd say even the way I teach it, the way I tend to not push it on people, that's the wrong way to teach it to people, is more oriented on like comfort or soothing side of things, right? This idea of being held, comforted, soothed, things that sort of bring, I don't want to say bring down as in like depress, but aren't about getting excited, right? Like, they're not about upping emotional arousal of any kind. They're about dampening emotional arousal just into a more pleasant state. And I would say that you can instead focus more on bringing joy in rather than bringing soothing or comfort in with what it is. You can either just make this call in the moment with really what you're trying to accomplish in the moment. You could also, if you're like, ooh, this is a great idea, Kate, you could make 2 different kits if you like the kits, which I love the kits. You could make a self-soothing kit and then also just a joy kit, right? A joy-based kit, right? So, I don't know, if maybe in the self-soothing one you have chocolate, because that's like a nice, mellow, soothing, comforting thing, and in the joy kit you have like peppermint or lemon or citrus or something else, right? Still something you really like, right? Not something, well, all right, maybe you like spicy things. I'm just showing my prejudice by saying not something spicy, but not something that's like challenging, so we're not necessarily going with like the sensations thing from Accepts, but just sensations that are more likely to perk you up, right? Maybe do increase your emotional arousal a little bit, just increasing it in a different direction than however you might be feeling in the moment, right? So that could also be about like putting things in that make you laugh instead of feel soothed. So just trying to be really mindful of what type of stimulus you're choosing, because that is a knob that you can twist to steer self-soothing in a wholly soothing direction, or give a little bit of a tweak and have it be more of a like joyful, soothing kind of experience or direction. This is, by the way, also very like the E in accepts. That part is. Right? This is about, right, putting in other things that are an emotion you want to feel, right? Like self-soothing traditionally isn't normally sold as here's an emotion you want to feel, how do you put it in your system? It's more about how do you dampen, right, and soothe out of whatever you don't want to be feeling, which is why I think it ends up borrowing a little of the flavor of the E from accepts when we use it in this fashion. And then my last point, I think, on this one is just that self-soothing for the five senses, however you're utilizing it, whether it be for more soothing purposes or for more perk you up kind of purposes, getting into the habit of leaning into that skill is getting into the habit of focusing on and honoring your body's need for joy. And that is something that can help you in moments outside of utilizing the skill, right? If you make a habit of prioritizing bringing joy into your body, that helps reinforce the idea in your mind that you're worth your own efforts, right? That this is a worthy and worthwhile thing to pursue, is bringing joy into your body and into your moments. And so anything that you can make, well, habits are habits. We're quite used to how they work against us, but we can harness them to work for us as well. And so if you took a little bit of time, each day to intentionally self-soothe, that helps reinforce this idea that that's something worth doing. And so you might find yourself reaching for those behaviors outside of deliberate skill use also. So that's, I think, the last bit of what I'd say about there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Okay, last skill that we're going to talk about is opposite action.
Woot.
I feel like I'm going to get, I don't know, on a soapbox about this, though, because there's so many misconceptions about opposite action. What it is, why we use it, that sort of a thing. And we talk about this sometimes, but it certainly bears repeating in the context of this conversation about joy. Opposite action is not about just pasting on a happy face, like for no good reason, right? So, again, we use opposite action as a skill when the emotion that we are feeling about a situation does not fit the facts of that situation. That is why we are using opposite action. We're not just using it for no good reason. We're using it when you are feeling an emotion about something that's happening and you realize my emotion and or its intensity does not fit the facts of the situation. So now what do I do? Well, you use opposite action. But what I have come to find personally, maybe you have also come to find this personally for yourself, Kate, sometimes, not always, but sometimes acting opposite of the emotion that we're feeling can then lead to feelings of joy entering the picture. Mm-hmm. So I will give a real life example here from long ago, before I knew anything about DBT. I was in my late teens.
Ooh.
Baby Michelle, working as a cashier at the grocery store, because that's what I did for a couple years in my late teens. And I knew nothing about DBT. I didn't know I was doing opposite action. But there was one day, and I can't remember why at this point, but I was not feeling it. And I'm sure any of you in a customer service position can understand exactly what I'm talking about. You are interacting with the public. You are expected to be pleasant, to engage with, and to be helpful, and all of those things. And some days you are like, no, I am feeling really depressed. I am feeling really angry about something. Like, whatever it is. It just feels like you do not have it in you to be, right, that happy face. So when you're practicing opposite action, what you want is for it to come from the place that it came from for me that day. What you don't want it to be this thing, because this is actually willfulness as I talk about it. It's willful to be like, well, I have to put on my happy face because that's my job. So, and you do like that fake kind of smile, like whatever, like thing, where it's like, well, I gotta be happy. So here I go. No, that's not what I'm talking about here. But I just decided that day, because I was not having the best day. And I was like, you know what? I know I'm not having a good day. And also, I really am facing again, kind of two choices here. So I chose the willing route, which was to be like, okay, I either can, and this is why I'm glad you talked about it, Kate, of like that anticipatoriness, right? I can either be like, all right, today is just gonna suck at work. But I kind of got into this mentality where I was like, you know what? All these customers that I see day in and day out, they're not the reason why I'm having a bad day. My bad day has nothing to do with them. I'm having a bad day before I even set foot in the store. Like, my bad day is not about them. And I either get to kind of like be in this sort of like headspace that I'm in where I'm just kind of like gonna, I don't know, have that probably show up in how I'm interacting with people. Or I can make an intentional effort to just kind of, I don't know, I just want to like be kind. Maybe I'm just going to try to like smile more at people because again, this has nothing to do with them. And what do I want to spread today when I'm at work? I'd rather spread, something akin to like joy than spread something that feels kind of down and heavy. And so I did. I just made that decision. I was like, I'm going to really try to have good interactions with everybody that comes through my line. And I did. And you know what? By the end of my shift, I was in a much better headspace than when I entered that day. And it did wind up bringing me joy. Again, joy under that umbrella that we were talking about earlier, right? Maybe feelings of like calm and peace. And I did feel a little proud of myself. And, again, not like kind of those up joy words like ecstatic, or that kind of a thing, but just kind of more mellow joy. I definitely felt that when I left that day. So the thing about opposite action is that you are making a choice to do something that is hopefully going to be effective. I knew that it was not going to be effective for me that day, for anyone that came through my line to just be like, yeah, I'm good. Whatever. Like, what's that going to do? It's not going to do anything good for them. It's not going to do anything good for me. Like, what is an effective choice? And you make that decision that you are going to act in a way that is effective because probably whatever action your emotion is telling you to do, if you let your emotion mind run the show, we want to be mindful of emotion mind running the show. That can get us into trouble. So my emotion mind that day would have just told me to be sullen. But I made a different decision with my action, and then the emotion followed. So it's not about choosing to just be like, well, I can tell that I'm feeling really pissed off. So, okay, I'm just going to tell myself to feel joy. No, that's going to fail you every time. Like, yeah, this is not about shitting on the emotion that you're currently having and telling it that it's bad and, that it's wrong and it needs to just go away. That's not what we're doing. Instead, we're getting to this place of like, okay, what are my options for how I can behave? What are my options here? I have options at all times. So what are my options? Let me pick the one that's most effective, using my wise mind to maybe help me make that decision. And then when I do that, when I genuinely want to do it, which again takes some willingness thrown in there, then you may find after you do it for a little while that feelings of joy start to come in. Sometimes I think of it like paint colors. Like if you think of the current emotion that you're feeling, like that anger, that sadness, or whatever it is as like one paint color, and then you start implementing opposite action, sometimes it's like slowly adding drops of another paint color. And they just get mixed up, right? You can still feel the emotion that you're feeling, that you were feeling originally. That's fine. You can still feel angry. You can still feel sad. That's okay, because those emotions aren't bad or wrong. But then you may start to have some joy interspersed in there when you're doing opposite action. So that's why I felt like an important skill to list here is, again, if you find yourself, what did you say, Kate? Like, this party's going to suck. Yeah. You gave that as an example earlier. Then you get to the party, and let's say it does actually suck. Right? It does actually suck. It's not a great party. And then you start to feel emotions around that of just kind of like, well, I feel really disappointed that this party is so sucky and whatever, and like check the facts, being like, okay, well, yeah, this and this and this maybe suck about it, and also like, does my disappointment need to feel like this big maybe? Like, does it? Or could I still find ways to enjoy myself? Maybe I could. let me try to find those ways. So that's my ramblings about opposite action. Hopefully that all makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I like it. It's kind of funny because, sort of like with willingness, I think I tend to use opposite action most often in a slightly, only in one of the less used subsets of it, which is just, I always like to remind people of, the vast majority of the time fall into the categories you gave, which is the when your emotion doesn't fit the facts, right? Like that's the 99% of the time people use opposite action. That me swooping in with that 1%, mine, I tend to use it when my emotion does, even if it does fit the facts and its intensity is good, but acting on it wouldn't be effective.
Absolutely. Yes. Uh-huh.
Like, check boxes all the way down about that feeling. Don't fucking do that thing. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that's just a gentle reminder that that's a way that can show up too for folks, because it happens. Some of us, even if we're having an appropriate emotion, aren't having an appropriate urge.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think about, I'm seeing the image in my head, but I can't remember how DBT phrases it, because there's like that decision-making tree.
Oh, yeah.
That DBT has, and I think that is one of the questions, but I can't remember how they phrase it.
Did you check why is my, or something, it does fit the facts, its intensity does, but acting on it, I think it is, but acting on it wouldn't be effective or something, or would acting on it be effective, yes, no, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The world's worst tree ever. I hate that handout, it's
really
so dumb. But yeah, anyway, yeah, that's exactly right, so that's where I use it. If you guys find that you can be like, well, I don't get it, like my emotions are good, but I think I'm still not supposed to do that thing, then maybe opposite action is also for you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I love your idea though, because you're absolutely right about still at how it can like leave space for a new emotion to enter the playing field kind of thing. I think the time and place it shows up most commonly for me is like after conflicts with my husband and about trying to like rejoin and spend time with him, right? And so like my emotions, I can be like, yep, everything's good, but my emotions are still like, up. But acting opposite of them helps me reconnect, etc. So,
yeah.
So those are thoughts. All right, takeaway, right? Is that what we're on to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are we taking away from today? What stood out?
Well, the first thing was we do have the same brain.
About ABC?
I know. That was so fucking funny. I was like, oh my god. And when you open your mouth, I was like, she has to be thinking the same fucking thing. She has to be. And you were.
We should have said it at the same time. There I am shitting on us. I wish we had, though.
I know.
That would have been amazing.
So, yeah, that's still true, guys. I think, let's see, what stood out to me the most? Your door metaphor. For willingness, I think is the thing that I'm putting in my back pocket for like teaching in future groups or utilizing with clients or things like that. So not quite the same necessarily kind of personal thing that we sometimes take away, but I really like that way of looking at it or thinking about it. And so I think that's a useful metaphor. So that's my thing, I think. What about you?
So my takeaway from today, even though it was really subtle, I think it was actually really helpful to revisit the different words from the feeling wheel for joy. I think that was actually my takeaway, was just kind of hearing those words read aloud again, because I do think we have this conception of what joy is. And again, we equate it with like happy. And we have this idea of what happy means or looks like or that kind of a thing, and to just read and like hear other words and kind of keep them in mind as we were going through the episode of like, no, joy can also be feeling courageous, joy can be feeling fulfilled, joy can be feeling peaceful, joy can be feeling respected, right? Like just kind of conceptualizing joy in that way, because I think sometimes we often think, well, if I'm not feeling like explicitly happy, then there's, a problem there. And again, that like joy should always be the goal.
It's not joy.
Or something. And no, not necessarily. I mean, it feels great when we're there. And that's why we wanted to record this episode, was because when we are there, let's appreciate it while we're there. And, really take in those moments when they happen. And let's also look at how to create more of those moments. That's great. But we're not going to feel joy all the time. It's impossible. It's one of 5 core emotions. There's 4 other ones that we feel often. But just to be reminded of all that it encompasses, and that it can take on a lot of different flavors. I think flavors was the word that you used, Kate. That joy can have a lot of different flavors. I was just thinking about that today of like, what are the flavors of joy that I really appreciate, and what way does it look or show up most in my life. So just kind of thinking about joy as a whole and being reminded of all the things it can look like was really helpful for me today. It doesn't have to just look like happiness or that kind of thing.
I'm glad. Yeah, no, I like that. It is fun. I think you and I both noticed the word provocative and how, like, oh yeah, wow. Yeah. Interesting that that one's on there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there were some that I wouldn't have maybe expected to see, but they fall under the joy category.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So typically this would be the part of the episode where I would now be sharing with you guys what's coming up for coffee hour next time. But I am here to let you all know today that currently coffee hours are on hold. The reason for this is that, one, I am figuring out adjusting back to my life as my maternity leave ends soon and that sort of a thing. So that's just one reason, is, really trying to assess how much bandwidth we each have right now and where we want to put it. We love doing coffee hours. And also it takes work, as many things do, to make them happen. So currently coffee hours are on hold, and hopefully we will be coming back in the future with coffee hour-esque offering that we hope will be pretty cool for you guys. All of those of you who are mental health professionals and stuff, we got some things in the works, but I'm hesitant to say what it is because these things may be a long time coming down the line. But I don't have a coffee hour to share with you guys today about what's coming up. So I just wanted to throw that in there in case you guys were wondering about that. And now it's going to be time to turn it over to Kate for closing moment.
Okay, closing moment. First one in a long ass time. Let's see how I do with this. Also, just as a note of warning, it's hot as balls in this room, so I have windows open, which might mean there's louder traffic noise. So I'm sorry guys if some asshole drives by really loudly while we're doing this. I hope they don't. Alright, so as per usual, start by just getting into a comfortable position, whatever that means or looks like for you today. Sitting, standing, laying down, walking, whatever feels good and right in your body. And if you feel safe and comfortable doing so, I invite you to go ahead and close your eyes. As per usual, we're going to start by just noticing our breath. You don't need to breathe any more slowly or any more deeply than you do naturally. It's just about paying attention. Just about noticing and focusing on the rhythms and the sensations of your breath, and letting them welcome you into your body and into the present moment. For today's exercise, I'd like you to take a moment to bring to mind and focus on some current joy in your life. This could be everything from the monumental to the minute. No joy is beneath notice here. And remember perhaps some of the other words that we were talking about at the beginning. Perhaps you've been feeling or have been in a situation where you're feeling courageous or powerful or peaceful. But just take a second and think about at least one joy, one cause of pleasure and happiness in your life. And really bring it into the present moment. Bring it into your body. As you focus in, what do you notice? How does your body feel in this moment? How is your breath? How are your muscles? Wait, what do you notice? No right or wrong answers. Nothing good or bad here. Just bringing that sense of joy to mind and noticing. What thoughts come up with this joy? Where do you find your mind going as you focus on it? What parts stand out the most? Along with joy, what other emotions do you notice? Or what other flavors of joy do you notice being present to this situation? What are the details? What are the nuances? How can you lean in this moment? In this moment, just being present to and present with this joy. Doing your best to pretend that the next moment never is and never will be. You are simply here and now with this joy. And in that space, what do you notice? And can you try to hold on to any of what you notice, such that for this situation or others in the future, maybe these are some signposts to the idea that you're feeling joy. Maybe your body is giving you a thing to notice and focus on, or your thoughts or your emotions. Whatever the case is, see if you can keep it in your body as much as possible while also letting go of the focus in this moment. And allowing yourself instead to come back to your breath and back to your body and back to the room. You might do some gentle stretches here if it feels good and right, rotating your neck or shoulders, your wrists or ankles. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. To learn more about us and the DBT skills we're teaching each week, join our Facebook group. Simply log in to your Facebook profile and search for DBT and Me podcast.